Hi, boys and girls. Welcome back from spring break. It's good to see everybody again. I've missed you so much. I think your spring break was probably a little different than it usually is, and so was mine. But I am so excited that we are sort of back together in this new and exciting way. Um, so I want to start off by maybe reading you a story. And the story I'm going to read to you today is called The Tortoise and the Hare. And it's a story about perseverance. Perseverance is sort of like growth mindset. It means that you keep going and you keep trying until you accomplish whatever your goal is. You keep taking baby steps until you get there. And I think perseverance is going to be a very important character trait for all of us to work on as we're going on this new learning adventure together, because things might not go right the first time, and that's okay. We need to have perseverance and a growth mindset so that we can get through. And we're all going to do that. Your teachers, your parents, and you. We're going to have perseverance and a growth mindset. So I'm going to read you this story, and I hope you enjoy it. It's called Perseverance, the Tortoise and the Hare. Adapted by Carolyn Katrocki and illustrated by Tim Ellis. Once upon a time, in a great forest, there lived a hare and a tortoise. A hare is kind of like a rabbit, and a tortoise is kind of like a turtle. The tortoise was slow in everything he did. He sometimes ate his breakfast so slowly that it was almost time for lunch before he had finished. He kept his house very clean and neat, but he did it at his own pace, very slowly. The hare, on the other hand, was quick as a wink in all that he did. He would be up in the morning, finished with his breakfast, and going for an early walk in the forest before the tortoise had even gotten out of bed. He could now not imagine how Tortoise could stand to be so slow all the time. Tortoise lived next door to his good friend Squirrel. Squirrel had a cozy little home high up in the old oak tree. She loved to spend her time scurrying around. Squirrel, like Hare, wondered how Tortoise could always be so slow. There's Tortoise having the breakfast. Hare lived near his old friend Owl, who was not nearly as quick as Hare. In fact, he spent a lot of his time sleeping, but Owl was a very wise and good neighbor. Sometimes he thought to himself, Hare always seems to be rushing somewhere in a hurry. I wonder if he ever slows down. What are you doing today, Owl? Yelled Hare as he ran by Owl's house. Oh, hello, Hare. I'm napping as usual, replied Owl. Where are you off to in such a hurry? I'm very busy. I have to run around the lake, said the hare. Then I must stop, jump over some logs, across some large puddles, and over some bushes. Then I'm due for a short sprint through the forest. Good for you, Hare, said Owl, closing his eyes. Have a good time. Thank you, called Hare. I will. Here he is running around the forest. Every afternoon when the weather was nice, Tortoise would gather up his paints and brushes and go out into the woods. Tortoise loved to paint pictures of all flowers, the trees, the stream near his house. He worked slowly, but his pictures were very beautiful. Every stroke of my brush must be done carefully, said Tortoise to himself. Tortoise took a lot of time choosing which paints he would use to paint his picture. Sometimes half a day would go by before he decided which shade of green to use on the leaf or the violet for the flower. Then another day would go by as Tortoise mixed the perfect color to paint the petals of the violet flower. Purple is the hardest color to make, said Tortoise. Sometimes there is just too much blue or too much red. Hare thought painting a picture was not at all exciting. What a dull fellow that Tortoise is, Hare said. Purple is purple. Here's a picture of Tortoise painting. One day, Tortoise was sitting beside the road painting a picture of the pretty wildflowers he saw in the forest. Hare came up and said, You're such a slow poke. You've been working on that same picture all week. I'm not slow, protested Tortoise. Silly fellow, said Hare, you are so slow that I could beat you at anything you could name. Just name something and I'll win. All right, said Tortoise. How about a race? What an idea! Hare laughed and laughed at the thought of running a race with the tortoise. Hare laughed so hard he thought that he would explode. Great, laughed Hare. I'll gladly race you, Tortoise. Fine, said Tortoise. Then a race it is. As he said this, he turned slowly back to his painting. He went back to concentrating on painting the pretty wildflowers just right. He would worry about the race when the proper time came. Here they are talking to each other about the race. I think Hare thought he could win really easily. We'll have to see what happens. Hare was a little surprised that Tortoise did not seem afraid. He walked off toward the home before he burst into his usual run. Word of the race spread quickly through the forest. All the animals were talking about how Tortoise had boldly challenged Hare. What was Tortoise thinking? Why did he do such a thing? They all wondered. Did Tortoise really think that he could run faster than Hare? On the day of the big race, all the animals gathered at the starting line. Fox was to be the judge. If the race is close, I will say who the winner is, he declared. Don't worry, said Hare. You'll have no problem. I will be so far ahead, there will be no doubt about who the winner of this race is. Hare did a few quick sprints to show off for the crowd. Then he did some fancy stretches. Tortoise jogged slowly in place. I don't want to pull a muscle, said Tortoise. Here's the stretching out in front of the race. They're kind of getting ready to start there. Tortoise and Hare stepped up to the starting line. Then Fox shouted, Get ready! Get set! Go! The race was on. Hare dashed across the starting line. In the blink of an eye, he ran over the first hill while Tortoise was just beginning to climb it. Slow and steady, said Tortoise over and over to himself. Hare was no longer in sight. Tortoise tried not to think about where Hare was. He just wanted to finish the race. He could do it, he thought. Slow and steady, Tortoise said. Hare ran and ran. He was sure he would win. This isn't even a race, he said to himself. I think I'll lie down and rest a bit. Then I'll finish and still have plenty of time to spare. There's no way that slowpoke will ever catch up with me. So Hare stopped running, laid down under a shady tree, and soon fell asleep. There he is taking his nap in the middle of the race. He's pretty sure he's going to win it. While Hare was fast asleep, Tortoise caught up to him. Then Tortoise passed the Hare. He did not even move a hair as Tortoise jogged by him. Suddenly, Hare woke with a start. What was that? He cried. He could hear cheering. He leapt to his feet and began running as fast as his long legs could carry him. But when he saw the finish line of the race, he could not believe his eyes. Tortoise was almost at the finish line. He was about to win the race. Hare could not believe it. As he ran faster and faster, he could see Tortoise was crossing the finish line in front of him. The crowd cheered and cheered. They ran to the finish line to congratulate Tortoise. Owl blinked his eyes and said what all the other animals were thinking. Slow and steady wins the race. And indeed, it did. There's the finish line. The end. So boys and girls, perseverance means never giving up, just like Tortoise in our story. He didn't give up. He just kept going at his own pace. Slow and steady wins the race. So the next time something is challenging or a little bit difficult, you just think about Tortoise in this story and his perseverance and how he just kept at it. And in the end, he was the winner. And so if we keep at things, eventually we're going to be successful. So I hope you enjoyed that story. I'll be back to read you some more in another video, okay? Welcome back from spring break.